Hi, I'm Greg Dell with Dell Disability Lawyers. I'm joined by attorney Stephen Jessup. And on our website, we have a section called Ask Our Lawyers. And every week we go on film in our studio here and we answer these questions that people ask us. And then we also come up with some of our own questions that we get from people who are calling in all the time. So this particular week, today, we'll go through a few different questions. One of them that I just recently got, and some of them are broad and some of them are specific. This one is disability insurance benefits easy to get?
That's an interesting one. Easy to get? Possibly yes. Easy to keep, I think, is one of the bigger questions. We'll see a lot of claims like short-term disability that get approved because they're expecting a return to work. It's not too often you see a short-term claim denied from the get-go. Insurance company may keep them on for a week or two and then harass them and deny them. So it may be easy to get in the sense of an approval initially, but the real question is, are you going to be able to keep it, especially if you're going to be out of work for a long period of time? I mean, some people, if they know they're going to be having surgery, for instance, you can contact your insurance company, let them know in advance. That's an easy process. But if there's an inclination by an insurance company that you might be on for an extended, especially if it's going to go to long-term disability, keeping that benefit can be very difficult.
All right, and along the lines of whether or not long-term disability is easy to get, what are these return to work guidelines and actually this return to work guidelines type book that's out there that disability insurance companies use?
Well, they kind of use this black and white thing. Say you had X injury. This is the expected amount of time of recovery, reasonable rate of recovery. So they feel that, say you had a shoulder surgery. Well, 6 weeks later, you should be okay to go back to work. And if you're not, you're more than likely going to get a hard denial on it. So they're always kind of referencing how long someone's expected to be out. And if you go beyond that point, the likelihood of a denial increases dramatically.
Do you find that most denials are consistent? The timing of most denials are consistent with these return to work guidelines?
They're really so close that you can't help but think that that's playing a huge role in it. Now, if you look through a claim following a denial, you don't necessarily see that, but you will see references to reasonable rates of recovery by the in-house nurses and things along those lines, but they'll be close. I mean, you may make it a few extra weeks if the claims person's a little backed up and isn't getting around to denying the case.
All right, another question that we get is, how long does it usually take for a long-term disability claim to be approved?
Even assuming that the long-term carrier, say Prudential, for instance, also managed the short-term. So generally you'd think there'd just be a rollover review, goes from short-term to long-term, should be just quick and smooth. I would say you still have to reasonably expect 30 to 45 days, because long-term is going to do a completely separate review from the short term. And I think that's part and parcel to the fact that short term is usually funded by the employer and the insurance company is just advising payment, so it's not their money. But when it goes to long term, the insurance company underwrites it, so it's their money now. So people all the time, we've always said one of the biggest chances of a denial, one of the most common times, is transition from short to long term. And that's in large part because the long-term carrier is now thinking about, are we going to have to pay you? How long are we going to have to pay you? And yes, sure, the information that just 2 weeks ago was good enough to support you disabled is magically not anymore.
So most people have either a 90-day elimination or a 180-day elimination period, which means you have to be out of work consecutively for that amount of days before you're eligible for benefits. And then a lot of people don't realize benefits are paid in arrears, which means even though it's 180 days, it's really 210 days because they're going to go 180 days and then wait another 30 days and pay you for the past month, which is kind of like the way paychecks come. You don't get paid in advance for your work, you get paid after you did the work. So from when paperwork is submitted, when do you usually see, though, that the disability company, like, do they review it in a week and make a decision, or do they?
Very rarely it's with a week. Once they get the paperwork to make the decision, a lot of times they'll take the time allotted to them. You can see easily 30, 45, sometimes 60, 90 days depending. And if you don't have everything you need, like you can submit your claim forms, but they're going to need your medical records, maybe financial documents depending on the case. So if they don't have all that in advance, that's just prolonging the amount of time it's going to take to make the decision.
Do you find that some disability companies are better than others in making a decision timely?
Yes. There are some that are much more efficient and I think make the process more insured. They're working actively to try to get the case approved or moved along quicker.
All right. Another question I have here is, how often are long-term disability claims denied?
Well, we're kind of skewed. A lot of times we get called because they've been
Right.
denied. I think if, and I could be wrong on it, but the statistics there, the insurance companies say 75 to 80% cases are approved. Maybe they are, but are they denied 30 days later? I would say, in my experience doing this now going on 15 years, more often than not, every case I've ever touched has been denied at some point. People contact me when they've been denied. Insurance company denies it along the way. Sometimes they deny it multiple times, and then you have to fight them, and they, reapprove the claim. So in my experience handling this, I would say the vast majority of cases I've handled and touched and been part of have come from a denial of some point.
All right, so along those lines, how often do you believe most disability insurance companies are actually reviewing a claimant's file once they get approved for benefits?
Technically, it could be monthly, right? Because they have to put in the issue, the benefit, but I think you have to reasonably expect, unless you've been told you're going into a long-term reporting unit and they'll touch once a year or once every 2 years. I have clients like that. Every 60 to 90 days, they're pulling stuff, sending it over to their nurses in-house to take a look at it. And a lot of denials can start just from a nurse case manager disagreeing with a doctor, and then the insurance company will deny, and then you're left fighting for it again. So you have to reasonably expect every 30 to 90 days tops, they're going to be really taking a look at it.
Yeah, and I believe that every 30 days when the disability companies go to issue that check, they got to do something at each disability company in order to approve the payment, whether it's answer a questionnaire internally, report something to a supervisor, but the checks just don't go on auto pay.
Or even every time
month.
your name comes up, like, oh, what's going on this? Have we gotten updated records? Do we have an updated claim form, attending physician statement, nature of the condition, stuff like that?
So along those lines with the assumption, I always tell all the clients, assume every 30 days a disability insurance company is looking at your file and making a determination if you're still eligible. And often, no matter how serious the condition is, they're still going to do that every 30 days. Now, there is something known as an extended duration unit, where they'll say every 6 months or every year we need some kind of proof of ongoing medical. But even though the disability company is looking at a file every 30 days, how often does a claimant need to go to the doctor in order to keep their benefits from being denied?
Well, every policy has a reasonable care of a physician, so a doctor can set that. I usually recommend every 3 months you really have to be getting in. If a condition is so bad it's disabling, you at least want to see treatment. And your doctor may not be able to do much for you. Sometimes you've had surgery, you still have all kinds of pain, whatever the case may be, and the doctor's like, we've tried, we can just give you, medications now. But you want to make sure you're continuing to document that, because the insurance company, it's like, what have you done for me lately? What happened in the past is the past. They'll say, well, yeah, we found you disabled, we reviewed it, but now there's nothing. And our doctor, who doesn't know you, never examined you, never spoke to your doctors, looked at the updated records and said, well, there's nothing here, so you must be okay. You can't be so severe if you're not going into treatment.
Yeah, but we have a lot of claimants who've been on claim for years, or people call us after being on for years, or tired of disability insurance company, they say, help me, or I got denied, or something of that nature after a long period of time. But from the claimant's perspective, they've been going to the doctor for years. The doctor really just is managing their symptoms. What's the point of going every 3 months? Because they say that to us. Why do they have to go every 3 months?
The insurance company is looking to see if we continue to get treatment. Remember, this insurance company, a lot of times people will call us when they've been denied. The claims person was so nice, they were so sweet, until they denied my claim, kind of thing. So yes, they're supposed to be working for your benefit. There's supposed to be some fiduciary relationship there, but at the end of the day, they're paying you money out of their own pocket, and if they can find any reason to try to deny that claim, they're going to. So you have to get into your doctor, because especially in employer-provided policies, you're only as good as your paper record. What's in the file, what the doctors are noting and documenting. Or there's got to be the concern if they make a cold call to your doctor and your doctor hasn't seen you in 6 months, and the doctor says, well, I can't really speak, I haven't seen him in a while, I'm not sure. And you'll see where the insurance company doctor will go, well, I think they might be capable of lifting up to 10 pounds occasionally, all these types of things. Do you agree? And yeah, those are bad restrictions. And the doctor says, yeah, that seems reasonable. And all of a sudden, your doctor says you can do sedentary work and go back to a desk job, so we're denying your claim. So having that relationship with the doctor, and yes, it can be frustrating, not only for the client, but for the doctor. But, you're doing it because an insurance company, right? It's the same thing when they complain about having to file for Social Security disability. It's because the insurance company, will dictate a lot of your financial security. It's like being in an abusive relationship. You have to deal with them in hopes of getting the benefit, and they're going to stack the cards against you a lot of times.
Yeah, well, like I tell the clients, just think about if you weren't going to the doctor every 3 months, then they deny you and it's been 6 months or a year. Someone from looking in from the outside may say, well, why didn't you keep going for help? And I know you're going to say, well, I already had my prescriptions, or I was told to go to therapy, or I do home exercises, but it's potentially not enough. And again, it depends on the diagnosis. Some are so serious it's so obvious. But for the ones that are in a chronic pain type situation, those are the ones who really should be going to the doctor every 3 months, and the doctor is going to get it and know, like, maybe there is something new that came up and maybe it can reach improvement. But the companies take advantage of you, and that's the message we want to get across. It. You have to go, you have to document it, and you got to go in and say, this is what's bothering me. You can't let that doctor, because it's electronic records, not do any changes to the records. It's got to be, this is what my complaints are, and maybe bring in a log of what's been going on the last 30 days, or think about 2 or 3 events that happened to you, or 2 or 3 days in a row, or whatever, where you had to give up an activity or didn't go out or do something or stayed home or things like that. You got to get it in the records. So, all right, well, we hit a few questions here today, and we encourage you to ask your questions on our website, where our lawyers answer those within 24 hours, or feel free to call any of our lawyers with your questions. We always provide a free initial phone consultation, and we can help you no matter where you live in the country. Thank you.